synthesizers, groove boxes. Visit Patchwerks in Seattle and online at patchwerks.com.
Hey, how's it going? This is Matthew from Patchwerks. We're here with another episode of Patchwerks Live, the synthesizer show that we put on every Friday at 3 p.m. Today we're checking out the all-new Korg Drumlog, and I'm excited to show it to you. I am still learning it a bit, but I believe that I know it well enough that I can do a decent demonstration for you. So here's the Korg Drumlog in all its majesty. Right off the bat, you kind of see what you're working with. One of the things that I immediately liked about the Korg Drumlog, so I'm going to kind of talk about some of my favorite stuff about the Korg Drumlog at first here before we go into a demo. But I love how many knobs I have access to. I want as many parameters as possible on a groove box and on a drum machine, and the Korg Drumlog does a great job with that. So the first thing that stood out to me is these smaller pots, and they actually feel really great. Small pots can sometimes feel a little wobbly, and they're not in this case on the Korg Drumlog. These are your volume pots for all 11 of the audio tracks that you have access to. That's kind of incredible. So even on like in analog rhythm, for instance, which I love to death, but even on something like this robust as that, you don't have access to volume pots on every track all the time. You do have to select the track, and it's a multi-hand movement. Whereas this, I can do two different things. I could mess with the filter and turn the volume down on a track at the same time. So that's pretty cool. It's definitely an inspiring device for live performance. The first thing I did with it when I started playing with it is I made a little techno track, and it did it like very easily, very quickly. It does use a similar workflow to the Volca line and to just the general Korg sequencer line. You can parameter lock like you can on so many other synthesizers that are out right now, so many other groove boxes. Parameter locking or step sequencing, like being able to step lock different parameters into your step sequence, is becoming the standard, I would say, for most sequencers now. Almost all of them have it. Electron being one of the companies that kind of made that the standard. Most other companies are now adopting that. The Korg Drumlog has those same features. You access them through the motion control button here. So once you're in this motion control section, you can do all that parameter locking. So I'm just going to load up a couple of the preset programs. We'll listen to them a little bit. We'll load up a couple preset kits, kind of get an idea of how the flavor of this machine, and then we'll make some patterns, dive into it a little bit, talk about what it has and what you have control over. So let's get right into that. So I'm going to hit select under the program section here, and here I'm able to choose a program. I can either use these pads right here, and this is moving through that selection. We're in the first bank, so this is showing 16 of the selections in bank A. To move through another bank, I use this encoder right here. Now we're in bank B. So there's, as you can see, there's a whole lot of pre-programmed patterns in here. Okay, we're past the pre-programmed patterns. You have 4 banks of pre-programmed patterns. That's quite a few. That really is. So here's the first one. We're not going to go through them all. I promise I won't do that to you. I mean, that's a sound. It is a... We still got some sounds going there. It is a analog and digital drum machine, and it also does samples. It doesn't sample, it plays samples, and it can play back stereo samples. There are some advantages and disadvantages to playing back stereo samples on the Drumlog. For one, stereo sample files are larger, so you can load less of them in your Drumlog. Another disadvantage of using stereo samples versus the mono samples is that the Drumlog does have stereoizing effects. That will take mono sounds and make them wide. So if you have a stereo sample, those effects aren't really going to have, or that stereoizing kind of effect that it has in here, it won't really do anything because it will already have filled the stereo spectrum. So that's just like, take it or leave it with that. But stereo samples sound really good, and the samples that are in it, some of them are in stereo. So that's really cool and unique to see stereo samples in a drum machine. They're almost always mono, like straight up, except for on like the Octatrack. Will you find they're almost always mono. So pretty cool. Nice work, Korg, getting stereo samples in the Drumlog. Let's go ahead and check out another program. And if I want, I can change the kit right on this program. Go to kit, select, Same pattern, different kit. Oh, this one's got a synth sample in there. So I do like that. You can program a pattern and then you can go in and just grab some of your favorite kits. This is reminiscent of a lot of drum machines, of course. Kits is not a new idea, but I do like it when you have that separation from program to kit, or being able to separate them from each other. I don't always like it when they are completely separated and I constantly have to choose a kit and a program at the same time. The programs do load with the kit that's intended for it, so that's good. They did have forward thinking with that. But I'd love the idea that I can switch kits out so quickly and they load immediately. There is no wait time to load kits. And it also seems like there's really no wait time to load patterns. And these are your projects. Look how immediate that was. You can hear how wide this drum machine sounds. So something else that's great about the Drumlog, and something I always want on every drum machine. I mean, I want it on every synthesizer too, but definitely on every drum machine, and the Drumlog has it. And that's individual outputs for all of your, for a few of your machines. And I believe there's some routing that you can do with it too. It does have an audio input, and you can route that through different effects if you'd like. So that's also really great. I think it's really important that machines keep their audio through inputs. And the Korg Drumlog does have it, because as we're stacking these pieces of gear together, and these are drum machines usually, are paired with another machine, and it is nice not to have a mixer on the table to where I'm having this plethora of cables everywhere. I could actually just take that synthesizer and just patch it right into my Drumlog and then hear it that way and use its effects. If, say, it's a monosynth that doesn't have any effects, Drumlog is going to provide those effects for me. And I think that is an essential thing, and I'm glad to see it on the Drumlog. So let's listen to another program. Sounds nice. I would like to add a bass line to that. Pretty cool. Let's try a new kit with this. It's wild sounding. So besides doing these volume pots right here, you do have a mute button. So if you want to mute a track, we have this mute button, and when you hit it, these tracks light up. So you can just hold it and press them, or you can double press it and it will be a toggle, and it will toggle mute on. So if you're playing live, double press mute, and you can take tracks out, and slowly bring up your hats while another element's coming in from the next pattern. That's kind of the idea with live performance with these kind of machines, and why they're able to toggle that mute on in that fashion. So that's another feature that I do like on the Korg Drumlog. It certainly feels like it's a machine that is built for playing, like playing live, performing out with, or performing into your DAW, and capturing that performance multi-tracked into your DAW so that you can spruce it up there and add your favorite plugins and spice it up. All right, now that we've kind of heard some of the patterns, we've talked a little bit about what's on the panel. Well, let's talk a little bit more about what's on the panel. So you can see that this is an analog and digital drum machine. So it does have some synthesis in it, but it mostly is a analog drum machine with samples. And that's how I would imagine it. That's how you should think about it too, is that it's more of an analog drum machine that also has some sample tracks. It does have these synth engines in it as well. The VPM is a phase modulation synthesis engine. So that's a sine wave modulating the phase of another sine wave. So it's a very similar concept to FM. Then we also have a noise engine. You get to choose one of these engines to use at a time. You can't use all of them at the same time. The noise engine, if I hold part and select this, is how you move to tracks without auditioning them live. If you're in the live setting, you can move to tracks this way, and it will audition them. Otherwise, you hold part and select where you want to go. The noise engine has Quite a few parameters that you can look at, different algorithms. There are filter algorithms, a decimation algorithm, which is a type of distortion. And then we have our color of our noise, peak of it, and attack release, so it has an envelope built into it, spread, which is going to be that stereoizing effect, and delay and reverb. So you can do build-ups, breakdowns, that kind of stuff. So it's fully prepared with a digital noise engine. Now this one over here, user, is a little bit more interesting because user can be more than what is provided in the Korg Drumlog. Right now, when you're in the user menu and you press up, you have to select something. Right now, user doesn't do anything. So if I press up and select, turn this knob, we have one option at this moment. This is the only one available that I'm aware of, and it ships with the Korg Drumlog. It's called Nano. Nano is a virtual analog dual oscillator synthesizer, and you can see what we have here. You can have your note position. If you want to put in notes in the sequence, I'm going to go over this with you. So I'm actually going to go Shift, initialize a pattern. That's Shift plus Master initializes this. So you can start from scratch, no pattern, no engine selected. We do have our default sounds, but we don't have anything pre-programmed at all. So now we're completely from scratch. And right now it defaulted to that VPM. You can hear it doing that. And it does sound like phase modulation or FM synthesis. But let's go back over to that user one because I find this to be the most exciting addition to the Drumlog, is that we do have this cool, it's a digital engine and it sounds very good. So let's check it out. We select Nano, and then we have our note offsets that we can put in, so we can program notes in our sequence up to 64 steps. We have our waveform select, so you pick, kind of like the analog rhythm, you have those two waveforms. It kind of has some choices for you. You have a dual square, dual saw, dual triangle, and then we have a saw and square. Then we have saw triangle, square triangle, ring modulator, and a ring modulator 2 and 3. To use your ring modulators, you're going to be playing with your detune and your balance. And that's going to give you some really wild tones because ring modulators can get really crazy. But for right now, the one I'm going to use is this dual sawtooth because I think sawtooth waves are the best for me. I just love sawtooth waves. So yeah, right now I also do have it, and this is a really cool feature, like a really chef's kiss feature to the Drumlog, and that is I do have it connected to a Keystep 37 right now, which I'm only going to use mildly. This demo is not about the Keystep 37, but I do want to mention that the Keystep 37 is being powered and driving MIDI into the Drumlog via one cable. So one USB cable, this will provide power to a MIDI controller. That is awesome. Like, that is so fantastic because we don't have velocity sensitive pads on our Drumlog. And most drum machines don't. But I can add them so easily just by plugging it directly into the machine. No extra cables, no nothing. Most MIDI controllers are powered over USB because they don't need much power to function. And the Drumlog provides enough power, partly because it's powered by a DC 9 volt. Center negative, I believe, and that has enough power draw to power probably a plethora of MIDI controllers if we wanted to, but I love that feature because right now, if I go into MIDI channel, we're on user, so I'm going to go to MIDI channel 13, or I think it's 11 actually. Yeah, MIDI channel 11 is, so this is MIDI channel 11, it controls these three, you choose one of these at a time, that's why we only have one multi-pot. So that's something you have to keep in mind. So if I bring the octave down on this, we can start hearing this synth engine come in, and look at that, some detune on those dual sawtooth. Mind you, it is a monophonic synthesizer. It's multi-timbral, so it has polyphony in the way that it is playing multiple sounds at the same time, but this synthesis engine is a monophonic synthesizer, so don't expect to be making chords here. However, you can load chord samples, so it's, you know, you can still get your chords into your machine. So we have some other parameters. The screen kind of goes away a little quicker. I would like to adjust that. You can choose your filter type, low pass, high pass, band pass, cutoff, key tracking, resonance. All of this stuff can be parameter locked across your sequencer using the motion sequence. Your envelope type, right now it's set on a decay. We can change that to an attack decay and a second attack decay. So two types of attack decay. Your envelope time, And then you have your envelope pre-established, pre-routed. Your envelope can go to your filter cutoff and it can go to your pitch. So if you want to make a drum sound, you can do that. But also, you just want to control your synthesizer sounds, you can do that. It does have an LFO. We do have several waveforms to choose from, quite a few. One called trapezoid, maybe. And then we have our amp styles, our amp time, which is going to adjust how long those envelopes actually affect the VCA in here, gain, and we have this nice overdrive. Check this out. If I go down and give this some resonance, let's give it, we don't want to use the pitch, there we go. Some cutoff there. We'll there you go, check that out. Pretty cool. I think that sounds great. The distortion on here is really cool. The diode one is definitely my favorite. You do want to bring your volume down on your synthesizer, probably on your pot, as you bring up that distortion because it will overwhelm it. This thing also does have master effects. We're going to get into that in a second, but I just want to mention that because you can set up a compressor and control some of your volumes in that way as well. So I wanted to put some effects on this cool synth sound. And we're going to get into the drum stuff more. I'm just stopping here because this is unique that it has these synth engines. And one of the unique parts about it is that if you download the Korg Drumlog SDK, which is their format for synthesizing your own engines, you can in fact actually upload your own synth engines on here if you build them out using their SDK, using their kit and their developer's kit. So we could see more synth engines coming on here developed by third parties, which you could buy off websites, kind of like you can do with the NTS1. There's lots of different sounds you can load into the NTS1. Korg's done a great job with that. And it sounds fantastic. The NTS1 is just crazy how good it sounds. So I can't see why this wouldn't be able to do those same features, and I'm sure it can. I hope. But I'm pretty sure I can, and I look forward to seeing what other people come up with it. It'll probably be no time before we see third-party user-developed synth engines that you can load in here. Maybe even some stuff with some polyphony. I don't know. Let's go ahead and just throw some effects on this. So if you just keep scrolling up, you get to your mixing routing section for your engine. And right now, here's the stereo spread I was talking about. It's very strange. It's cool. Here's some delay. And then we have reverb. There's a bunch of different types of delays and reverbs that you can use. If we go part and then select master, this is our master effects, but if we go part and select delay, here's our delay. And if we scroll up, we can choose our time and our feedback. Feedback 50 is not enough for me. I like my delays to ring out for a while. Let's burn it up to like 80. We can leave the time at 1/8 because it makes nice triplets, but here we can adjust the filter. We can actually give it a filter. It has no filter right now, but we could give it a low pass or high pass filter. We could saturate it, change its routing. So I want it to be a ping pong delay. There you go. Can you hear that? That sounds great. And with that adjusted feedback, works really well. Let's go over and drop into our reverb real quick and bring up that input and change its time. It needs a lot more time, so make it a big reverb. You can adjust the brightness, which is just going to increase high frequencies. I do think there's different types of reverbs. So here we go. We have a space reverb. Listen to that. This is the Korg Drumlog. What? That's a pretty good sound. Some pretty good sounds. Riser. You can hear it's pitch shifting. Submarine probably just pitch shift down, I imagine. Let's leave it on space because it sounds good. All right, we have this cool synth sound. You can load created synth sounds for sure, and I believe you can also load customized effects for the person who was asking that question. So yes, you can. You do have to either develop them yourself or get them from a third-party manufacturer who's currently working with the Korg developer kit. I don't know of any others at this moment. There may be some available. I haven't seen them, but currently the one it ships with is called Nano. It is a virtual analog dual oscillator synthesizer, and this is what it sounds like. It sounds awesome. So very pleased with it. All right, so we have a cool synth sound. Let's get some drums going. I'm gonna hop over to the kick drum. Let's just start here. You know, if this kick drum is not working for me, we do have drive, tune, and decay. So those are your parameters that you get on here. This is not the only parameters you get. We can change our transient. This is probably the most effective parameter change. Is going to change the sound most drastically on your analog engines, is changing your transient. This is the first sound you hear when you hear something. It's the initial transient. So it kind of makes sense that it's, you know, has such an effect. Let's change it. Okay. Middle click. Okay, so we have a kick sound. I can just put steps down by going into the pattern edit section. This is where you're going to be doing all your sequencing. There's some randomization features that this offers as well. We can hold shift, and anything under highlighted here, these sections are all going to work with the shift button. So, and I believe you can toggle the shift button on by double pressing it. So shift latch. So now I'm in the secondary menu. So these buttons now do what this does instead of what these do. So that's a dangerous territory for you to get in. Double pressing shift could lead you down the wrong path. I would recommend just holding shift until you are very familiar with the Drumlog. But if we wanted, we could randomize a part, which is going to randomize the sound settings for the current selected drum sound that we're on. We could do that. Why not? I'm not in love with what I made. Randomized part. There we go. That's what it did. Let's try it again. Oh, that one didn't even make sound. What's going on here? Shift. Randomized part. Okay. Okay. Kind of sounds like a tom. Sweep time. So here's your other parameters for your drum synthesis. Basically what we have is some pretty standard drum synthesis using analog engines, an envelope attached to an oscillator, and you can adjust how much it sweeps that oscillator, so that how much it brings that pitch up, and then you can adjust how quickly it does that. Then you also have a hold segment, so you're just adjusting a simple envelope. And then we also have attack, and this attack has a very dramatic effect on whatever transient you have in there. Now we have a very snappy kick drum. Cool. There's more parameters. We do have a filter. I'm not going to use the filter on my kick. I could throw some delay on it. Ooh. Let's hear how it sounds with some reverb on it. This is that space reverb. All right, so back over to the sequencer. We're gonna go into step mode. This is where you put down your steps. So I can go like this. Just put down some random steps here. Here's my tempo. You can see it blinking. And look at how it displays this nice Midi style roll for you. Something we're all very familiar with, I think. Is that your favorite sequence ever? Okay, so let's move over to another sound. Let's go to a snare drum here and we'll just do some simple stuff. We can of course adjust our snare. Could give it some like reverb if we wanted. Spread's kind of fun. We do have sidechain. We'll check that out in a little bit. Tone, so like a filter on it. And our snap level. So this is going to be like the noise at the transient. Right now it sounds like an analog drum machine to me. The analog synthesis is the kick drum, the snare drum, and the toms. Low tom, high tom. You can see it here, it tells you. But we have control over other parameters that aren't necessarily analog. Let's try this here. Oh wait, no, I don't want to do that. Cancel. This is your cancel button? No. It's good to know, trust me. Let's go shift. That's kind of interesting. All right, I'm gonna go over to this hi-hat here. Let's throw down some closed hats and we'll check out the roll feature. If we want to adjust the sound of this hat, we just turn this knob here. There's our sample. If I want to make one of these hi-hats roll, it'll roll for the length of the step. Hold it down and go to accent and go ahead and just turn ratchet on. Then you have your ratchet ramp. So random is going to be like up and down. We have a rise and a fall. And this is going to be how many times in that step it hits. Let's go back over to that synth engine. Okay. There is a way to do step length per track. Let's do that because I want this bass line to have those two notes, but I don't want them to be happening so quickly. I don't want it to be only 16 steps long. So you hold time and part. And while you're holding time and part, you can change the length. Well, you just hold time and hit part. I'm sorry, you don't have to hold it. So that would be whack because you'd have no free hands. But yeah, just hold time and select. You're going through part time, you're going through global time. So if you adjust global time, you're going to adjust all the tracks. You go through part time, you're adjusting your current selected track. Right now we're on this track. I want it to be 32 steps long. Cool. So now I have more steps, as you can see. 2 pages here. I can switch between the pages with these arrows. And if I want to record this, there we are. Look at that long note in there. Let me just edit some of these sounds a little bit. Go over to a clap, maybe. Do I have no sound in my clap? Let's go to live. If I don't want to use a rim shot, I don't have to. It's just called the rim shot track. It's kind of like the dig attack. The dig attack, they have a bunch of names for tracks, but those names for tracks don't actually correspond to anything. It's just the default sounds that load onto it. You can put whatever sound you want. So we can go into this rim shot track if we want, and page up, and there's our sample. I can leave the rim shot bank and go into the miscellaneous bank, which is where you're going to find all the miscellaneous sounds that come with the Korg Drumlog. We don't have anything that we've loaded in here ourselves. We just have what's come on the Korg Drumlog. But instead of changing the rim shot, why don't we head over to one of these sample parts? And these are just, by default, user select. So it defaults to the miscellaneous page. And we can audition. There's a stereo sample. Cereal. Killer. Never changing? Is that what I heard? Let's play with this one, see if it'll match our baseline here. We can make it match our baseline. All right. All right, check this out. Whoa! To use these loop for performance effects, you have two different options. You can use this select or moment. Moment means while you're holding them down, right? Resume synced. Cool. Now, if you want to, you can lock it and go like, nice little build up. I'm sure someone's gonna get really good at this. play forward, random. No one random. Forward and random right now. Maybe they'll add it backwards eventually. Cool. I think it sounds good. There is choke groups as well. You can hold shift, select choke, create a group, and then give it a priority. So you assign something to a group and then give it its priority. And if it's the highest priority, it'll choke when it gets hit versus the one that's a lower priority. Really simple. That's usually how choke groups work anyway. So if you're familiar with choke groups, you're going to have no problem setting that up on your Korg Drumlog. Let me check in with the chat here, because I know we have a healthy chat going on. See how everybody's doing. Low pass with some Q and dub it up, man. What's up, Matthew Allen? Yes, that's true. With those chords, yeah. Great for classic jams, not so much for alien beats. Well, you know what? I don't think that we know yet. I think the jury's out on what the Drumlog is good at, because, I mean, or the jury's out. Is that right? Am I saying that wrong? Well, anyway, my point is that I don't think that we know its superpowers yet. We know that it has all these capabilities, but I don't think anyone's really put it to the test yet, because it's just not been out long enough. And as you know, the longer a piece of gear is out, like the Octatrack, for instance, right? We're still coming up with new ways to use that thing, right? That's how this is going to be. This has a lot of functionality. It has mix input. It has multi-tracking. It has loop functionality. It has this built-in MIDI controller functionality that's so fantastic. We have a video coming out about that soon, using a launch pad that's able to control the filter cutoff on the master filter. So that's something we're going to check out here in a second. It's able to control the master filter, which is part plus master. We'll bring you into that master section. And here, right now, it defaults to an EQ. But I think that this is going to be a device that is going to continue to get updated. And as people are adding these new synthesis engines and getting more comfortable with the workflow and how quickly to move on it, that it's just going to keep growing. It's so fresh right now that we haven't fleshed it out yet. I've had limited experience with it right now, and so far I learned it fairly quickly, and which is great, which I think is really important, that you're able to, if the machine is able to be learned quickly. If you're familiar with Korg's line, this is going to be a no-brainer. Like, it's going to be very simple for you to understand and get it working. It'll connect to all your other Korg machines with its in and out sync. And not to mention just MIDI and USB MIDI, like you're gonna be able to connect it all anyway. It does also feature a headphone output, and it has wood panels. So it's a pretty cool drum machine. I like that it has, my favorite part about it is probably the synth engine paired with the drum machine. I think it's really great that it has that synth engine. It kind of like has some rhythm vibes in that way, where we have the synthesis and the analog and the samples. It's not, I can't think of any other machine that does that at the price point that Korg is releasing the Drumlog at. So yeah, I think it's a real potential for live performers and for people who are looking to multi-track in their studio and also make use of their sample packs. I do think you're going to want to use mono samples, because stereo samples are going to fill up the memory storage that it has in it fairly quickly. It doesn't have a ton of memory storage because it's really made to be played with the analog side and then using the samples alongside that. That's where you're going to get the most that's where you're going to get the most out of it, is what I mean. But I do like it. Let's check out some more of these parameters here. So here's our EQ. We can adjust that. We could dip out those mids. So you could use this like a DJ mixer if we want. If you had this connected to a controller, you could be doing this like that and bring in some other elements. You could have two of these together. That could be pretty cool. There's another page as well. You can gain the EQ. and a boost to the low and mid. So let's select a different feature here. We do have this boost. This boost is very strong. So let's check it out. This is your end of chain saturation and signal boost in general, but really this is where you're gonna get your grit. So if you're into making some like really industrial stuff, this is gonna really do it for you. Check it out. It's gonna get kind of loud. Oh, check that out. Yeah. I think this thing really shines when you get into that industrial distortion territory. Whatever Korg did with their distortion, they did it really well because I love the grittiness of the distortion. It is cool. It is cool. Sorry if you said this already, but can you EQ the individual drum sounds that you've made? So once you go over to like a drum sound, here we are back on our kick drum, or let's go to this open hat, for instance. Go up, you choose it. I'll show you all the stuff that you can adjust. You can adjust the sample. You can adjust the tune, the attack, the start, and the end time of the sample. You can adjust the cutoff, depending on what filter you're using. So it's a high pass, low pass. Resonance, this is a bit reduction, so that's gonna just make it really gritty. And then you have drive. Spread, delay, and reverb. So the answer to that question is no. There is not an individual EQ per track. There is just the master EQ. Let's go back over to that master section and look at some more stuff. So we heard the boost. We've got it all boosted. I like how it sounds. It's sounding pretty crazy, and I dig it. It's kind of tunes I like to make. Okay, here we go. More. We looked at the EQ, the boost. Here's a DJ filter. Okay, let's check it out. Turn it on. Cool, so that's your DJ filter. Put it on different mode. So these are 2-pole low-pass filter, 2-pole low-pass filter, 4-pole low-pass filter, 2-pole bandpass filter, 4-pole bandpass, and 2 and 4 high-pass filter. Here's that high-pass filter. Let's check out the bandpass, actually, 4-pole. Here we go. Sounds good. Filters sound good on here. The developer who made this is the same person who came up with the Korg MS-20. So, knows their distortion and filters. There's no doubt about that. Pretty cool, and you can just switch over to through if you want to get your filters out of the way. So there's one more part, and that's the compressor. So here we go. Let's check it out. Compressor. Up. All right. We have typical compressor controls: threshold, attack, release, and ratio. We also have knee, which is not something you see in Groovebox Drummachine compressors. Usually that's, if it has a compressor at all, it's pretty basic. So it's a little bit more, a little deeper. And it has sidechains. Let's turn sidechain on. Compressor is 100% wet, so you can do parallel compression. And let's compress this signal. We got to bring the threshold way down to get it to compress. Bring up that ratio. So if we want to use this sidechain, like say we want this kick to cut the mix, here's what we do. We hold part, we go to bass drum, because we want our kick to do it, go all the way up to sidechain, turn it up, 100%. This becomes the sidechain source now. So everything is getting sidechained to the kick. All of your drums, all of your sounds. You have to go in and decide what you want not to be sidechained to your kick at this point. You hear that kick really cutting through the mix now. I do like the synth sound I got from there. But you can load all sorts of other sounds. Like say we want to go from scratch one more time. Shift, init, and that's gone. We didn't save that pattern, so it's gone. No matter what, we can't go back. Here we are, we're back to that VPM. Let's check it out. Let's check out VPM here. You can hear it's very much just like FM, playing with ratios. But this is designed to make some sort of drum percussive type sounds. You can't adjust the note. We're not going to hear that in the keyboard. But if you're sequencing, so here's how you would sequence some note information. No, not this way. We want to be in, we got to put steps down first. So let's just put a couple, let's make it really easy on me. We'll go 3, 7, 11, and 15, just so I can remember those. We go over to motion. We know 3, 7, 11, and 15. There's not an indicator for us to see that that's where those steps are. But we know that they are there. So we're in motion. I want to page to where note says, hold down that step and adjust note. And look what it brings up. Motion bar for notes. So here we go. We're adding it. Here we're at a C sharp 2 on this one. On 11, we'll go to an F sharp 2. I don't know, let's see how this sounds. So we could live record that kind of stuff in. It's so quick, it's so fast to make tunes on here. Let's go to sample slot 1. We'll do what Matthew Allen suggested. Maybe we'll put the... Oh, there's no LFO here. Okay. Never mind on that part. Whoa, let's keep it on hall. Let's check out the room. Here's a tape delay. Has mod, so it can get a little trippy sounding. I mean, you can see how quickly we're able to generate a pattern, and I haven't had this in my possession for very long. So it's a fast drum machine to learn, has a lot of potential, and I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy it once they get their hands on it and really dig into it. And for people who are already familiar with the Korg lineup, this is kind of a no-brainer. You're going to love the sounds. It's going to sound similar to some of your other analog Korg synthesizers. It's going to fit your aesthetic too. It's all black, wood painted, totally black. Pretty cool. I do love the aesthetic that they chose for it. Let's see, what else can we cover on here that I haven't talked about? Yes, okay, so use Macaron After Party. Love. Macaron or Macaroon After Party? I'm not sure. Good question. Can you load samples easily? The answer is yes. So power it down, hold down the record button, plug it into your computer, power it down, plug it into your computer through the USB here, hold down the record button, power it on. It will turn into a disk drive on your computer. There's folders in there. Drag your samples into the folder you want it to go into. If you want to go in the rimshot folder, put it in the rimshot folder. If you want to go in the user folder, put it in there. So really basic, simple. It's literally just loading samples into folders on your computer. When you're done, eject the disk, turn on your Drumlog, and you're good to go. Oh, look, Steven had already answered that question. That's funny. I didn't read that.
To it.
I just double answer. Grabs bubbly water. What's up, Calderwood? USB host. Yes, USB host. Really cool. Yeah, I think it's got a nice sound. As you can hear, I mean, it's not like the biggest banger in the world. Let's turn it up like a... Let's see what its max tempo is. Probably 300, I bet. 240, okay. Let's see its lowest tempo, 56. You do have a groove, so we can change the rate of the whole global clock. You could use this as performance effect. You can also do triplets there. Shrink, shift, and expand and shrink. This is gonna like make your patterns, it's gonna duplicate your current pattern page. So if I wanted to make this bass drum pattern longer, I go shift and expand, and now it's 2 pages long with the exact same information on both pages. Which isn't very much information because we only have these 2 kicks. But it's the same information. So if I want to shrink it, shift, shrink, now it's only 1 page, just subtracts that page. So that's really cool and makes it really fast for you to duplicate your patterns. There is a chain mode as well. So chain is going to chain patterns together. So if I go select chain, and then I pick a pattern, I hit select, and then I hit the pattern, and we just selected that one, and now we hit select. Let's choose another pattern, hit select, choose another pattern, hit select, choose another pattern. And we made this chain of D15, B3, 3, C1, 1, 1, 1. So that's how you generate chains. And then when you're playing in chain mode, it'll play your chain. Pretty simple, pretty cool, pretty easy to use. Everything lights up. It lets you know. It's like, hit this button next. You know, I kind of like that. It's like flashing like select, we pick one. Selected. It wants you to do it again. Or you can cancel with no. Pretty easy. That space reverb going to the distortion did sound crazy. Sounded pretty good. DC Merrick, what's up? How would I compare the Drumlog to the Analog Rhythm Mark II? They're actually strangely comparable. They do both have a lot of the same features. While the Analog Rhythm is about 3 times the price, 3 or 4 times? 3 times. It's a lot more. I think it's about 1800, and these are not. They do very similar things: analog synthesis, sample playback, performance effects, individual outputs. The Rhythm has, has overbridge and some other features, but
more RAM for sample storage
on the Rhythm.
on the Rhythm.
On the Rhythm, yeah, there's more RAM for sample storage. So, but I mean, of course, we're talking, you're spending a lot more money for an analog Rhythm, and it's also a completely different workflow. If you're into the Electron workflow, you're definitely going to, this is going to be a little bit more alien to you because you're so familiar with that. We're just talking about if we're comparing those two. But if you are familiar with the Korg workflow, this is going to be a breeze. And there's not anything else by Korg out right now that can do what this does. And I wouldn't say that it's like a Volca, because it's not. It has a similar sequencer idea, and that's really just because of this motion record. We're also used to seeing Volcas with motion record, and Volcas are associated with kind of like affordable synthesizers. And that's great because Volcas are fantastic, and I think they're awesome. They're a lot of fun to play with, and they make great sounds. Especially the newer ones. They blow me away with how good they sound. This is its own thing entirely. That's just borrowing from some of the same concepts that the Volca sequencer used, because we're familiar with that sequencer, but it's a way more robust sequencer than the Volca sequencers, and it's much easier to navigate on this larger panel and with a lot more knobs. So I don't really think that they're in the same ballpark in terms of capability. I'd say this is much, much more powerful than a Volca. Can the Drumlog P-Lock? The Drumlog can, in fact, P-Lock. So you can P-Lock any sound. So we could grab this. It's doing the chain. Let's get out of this chain mode. So let's find. You can see what's lighting up. Let's play with this hi-hat. So if I go into if I go into motion, we can select a parameter we want, like reverb or delay or any of them. We have to look at what step they're on first. Okay, step 15. Step 15, I want to have a lot of reverb. There it is, motion bar for reverb. So now that last hat, hear that? P-Locks. P-Lock, baby. So yeah, you can parameter lock every single part of the motion sequencer. So anything in the menu of your sound can be parameter locked on your sequencer. So like I was saying, incredibly robust sequencer. Quite powerful. And plus the individual outs and the Korg SDK synthesis engines that will surely be coming out more and more and more of them. I'm sure Korg will release them, plus third-party partners. This is just going to keep getting more powerful and more powerful. And I do like that. I love the idea of synthesizers having stuff like their own SDKs, their own developer kits, so that, they're just always being updated, whether it's being updated by Korg or by someone else is updating it and allowing you to make your machine get more powerful and more interesting. Korg's letting you do that, so they're taking their own route, and I like that. All right, well, it's 4 o'clock. That's going to be my demo for the day. We do have Meet the Instructor coming up. That's going to be on Saturday, February 4th from 1 to 3 p.m. Come on down and meet Crosby Morgan, a.k.a. Leandrol, one of our instructors here, and a fantastic local performer, singer-songwriter, very proficient at using hardware, electronic gear, plus acoustic instruments, and an excellent vocalist. Come down and meet her. She's really cool.
We have a video, live performance video.
And we do have a live performance video of her that just was released. You should check that out. It's on our YouTube channel. Watch her do a breakdown of her gear. It's a beautiful video. It's a beautiful sound. She's a stellar performer. So I do recommend you check that out. But yeah, otherwise, I'm Matthew from Patchwerks. excited to have you all hang out with me during this live stream, and look forward to seeing your comments in the comments section below. I'll see you next Friday at 3 o'clock. Take care.